whatever we do to one another, we all do to one another. And so it requires for us to be able to look at that and to take responsibility and to understand that if that is true, that if I'm a part of that one, then I also have within me the power to rectify and to emit healing by taking responsibility of that. So within my own life, the way that I do that is anytime that I see these acts of terror, that I pause and I say, what part of my own mind has created those kinds of thoughts within me? I may not act out on them the way that other individuals do, but it means that I must recognize that that is still a part of me, that there are still unhealed aspects within my humanity that I have the opportunity to bring to the light. And so I say a prayer not just for those who have experienced the effects of the perpetrator, but a prayer for the perpetrator as well, where I acknowledge that I am both. I am both the yin and the yang. And only then can I fully commit to the idea of oneness. Do you understand? That it's convenient to say, yes, we are one. It is convenient to say, I believe in one God, one absolute power and first cause to all things. I can say that because I recognize my position in oneness. But I must be able to say that also with the way in which we act to our fellow human beings, sometimes in ways that are less loving. I must also own that. And that's the part where I think true spiritual maturity takes place, where we can all stand and we can look at the world and never ever say, that has nothing to do with me. And to realize that it has everything to do with me. I thought that I would bring up a couple of microphones. And I wanted to ask, if you would be so kind, that those in our membership who are African American, if you would be willing to come and speak from your heart about anything. And before you do, I just want to speak the names of the 9 individuals. Today is in honor of State Senator Reverend Clementa Pinkley, Myra Thompson, Tywanza Sanders, Reverend DePayne Middleton Doctor, 87-year-old and choir member Susie Jackson, Ethel Lance, Reverend Daniel Simmons, Reverend Sharonda Singleton, and Cynthia Hurd. So for any one of you who feel like coming and sharing, this is your space and your time.
I'm Lee Valentine. I'm with the Board of Trustees here at SLCA. And some of you are aware that I have a military background. I went to a military college, spent 11 years on active duty in the Air Force. And obviously the military is in the business of waging war, blowing up things and killing people. And the doctrine of mutual assured destruction. I remember during my time in the military, I saw someone wearing a t-shirt saying, kill them all, let God sort them out. So contrast that attitude, that philosophy, with the reaction that you saw from the family members and the congregants, or the family members of the 9 victims and the congregants of that church in Charleston. This was literally 24 hours after the incident, 24 hours after their loved ones, their friends, their family members had been brutally murdered. Their reaction was not, I hope he gets the death penalty, I'll pull the handle myself, he needs to pay for his actions. The reaction that I saw on the news was nothing but love, forgiveness. And like I said, this was literally 24 hours after the event. Someone who lost their mother, their brother, their their daughter, they said, I forgive him. I have nothing but love for him. Him referring to the gunman. And there was another story that they're still reporting in the news that the gunman wanted to start a race war, and that's why he committed this act. One of the reporters on the street interviewed someone, a black woman in Charleston, and told her that, and she said, that's not going to happen here. So it occurred to me at that time that the people in that community, the family members of the victims, they had achieved a level of consciousness that we all aspire to, and that the gunman, obviously his intentions were not accomplished, and he picked the wrong venue to try to further his mission. And I really spent some time reflecting on that. It was a very powerful message to me, just to hear it from the mouths of like I said, the loved ones of the victims so soon after the incident, and to have it just spoken so consistently across all the folks that they interviewed. So it's something that I think we can all probably take to heart, and I think it's something that we can hope that becomes part of our collective consciousness. And Reverend David, with your permission, I would like to extend the invitation and open the platform to everyone here who wants to share their views, not just those of us in the African American community. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Osizwe Raina Harwell. I'm really grateful this morning to be a part of this community. I may cry, I probably will. To be a part of this community where we would make a space like this and not just keep going when it is an opportunity to talk. To be a part of a multiracial, multi-ethnic community where we commit to the principles that we learn. To have someone like Reverend David who engages in conversation about how we move through social justice matters. And what I'm feeling this morning is complicated as I've tried to process what it means for me personally and what it means for us as a community. And I have to be honest about my lived experience that as a mother, a sister, a loved one, people walk around sometimes and live in fear that something could just happen from just being. Not just to black males, not just to black children, but in this case even to black elders and grandparents. And so it's difficult, it's very difficult. And at the same time, as a teacher and an educator and a college professor, I think that the dialogues are so important. It's so important for us to lean in, to be able to talk about issues of racism with one another, to leave room as people navigate pain and rage and discomfort as we toy with words like racism or domestic terrorism. That provides a little tension for us, but it's safe for us. We've learned that it's safe for us to be in dialogue or simply just to listen. So if we're in communities where we have a diverse family, then I think it's safe to begin to just talk. What is powerful is that we've arrived at a historical moment, and we've been here before, where we have a beautiful mirror in front of us as a nation. We focus outwardly often in terms of what's going on in the world, but as a nation, we have a mirror, and that mirror is very powerful, and it brings opportunities for us to grow and for us to change and for us to transform. And it doesn't happen if we don't talk about it, when it's painful, when it's difficult, when it's not the emotions that we aspire to at our height. We get to the love, we get to the forgiveness, we get to the healing, but it often comes through grappling with the difficult parts. That said, I guess I think what I want to close with is the importance of looking at all lives as sacred again and again as these incidents begin to just gather in this season and this time. It's been our children, it's been youth, it's been this demographic and that demographic, but this week it was it was our elders. And so I'm thinking of my grandmother. The median age of this group of ancestors now, this group of victims, were 60 and above. So I think of the church elders that I grew up with in my African American church. I think of the elders that I see when I come to SLCA, the wise women that I sit with, and the spiritual power of just elders. And for me, if we miss the opportunity to really see the sacredness of those who are, whose lives are being lost, then it just comes again. And so I just really, I actually am just grateful for this historical moment that gives us a chance to just take a step towards change, take a step towards dialogue, take a step at looking at our America and deciding to dialogue. I want to, before I sit down, just say those names of those elders, if I might, and then that's all. Ethel Lance, Cynthia Hurd, Susie Jackson, Myra Thompson, Tywanza Sanders, Reverend Daniel Simmons Sr., Reverend Sharonda Singleton, Reverend DePayne Middleton Doctor, and Reverend Honorable Clementa Pickney. We just give thanks for your lives. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Dawn Ann Jameson. I am a practitioner here at the Spiritual Living Center of Atlanta. And I'm very proud, as you all know, to be a practitioner here. It gives me great honor. My heart is sad with the events that have occurred recently. My words are short. It's all love. It's all love. That's what we have to bring to whatever we see before us. We're not here to control. We're here to raise our consciousness. My heart goes out to everyone affected by this incident. But what I know for sure is that it's all love. Reverend David talked about the light that's in each one of us. What I care to share with you is, in order to deal with this incident or any other incident, let us focus on shining our light, our individual light, a little bit brighter. Take a moment to reach out to someone that you know, that you don't know, and let your light shine a little bit brighter. You never know where they are mentally. You never know. We're good at putting up facades. So, reach out, share your love, raise the consciousness of the entire world. We do it one by one. We are one. Thank you.
My name is John, and I just want to say that when I saw this event happen, my heart broke. And my black brothers and sisters need to hear that from me. My heart broke. That church stood for what so many of us believe in. And the courage of the people and the ancestors, like you said, that have come before, that have stood in the midst of and faced the pain and the hurt and the patterns of the evil that has been around this issue for so long. I honor all of those ancestors and all of the people in that place and in all the churches and all of the people who stand for what we all feel in our hearts, that we all are one. We're all equal. And as a gay man who has felt the hatred of others, I understand at some level what it feels like when you're community or another person like you is attacked, it hurts. But it's deeper than that because we all know we're really all one. And I'll tell you, when I came to Atlanta, Carrie, my partner, will tell you that I drug him all over Atlanta looking for a church because I didn't really want to go to an all-black church, and I didn't really want to go to an all-white church because it didn't reflect what I believed, that we're all one. And I'm so grateful that we are here together, all of us. I need that. So, and I just would like to suggest, I used to go to a church in San Francisco where we'd hold hands at the end of the service and we'd sing, "We Shall Overcome." And I think today might be a great day for us to sing that one.
Anyone else? Cheryl?
I'm Levon Lacey, and when I saw this, it was a different event. You know, the events of the early 60s with Selma and the bomb in the church and the Montgomery bus boycott, those caused change that was really needed in that time period. And this felt different when this young man went in and shot these people. To me, it didn't feel like a racial event as some of the things we've seen in the past few months. It felt different. It felt like these souls had come together and made an agreement that it was time that we took the next level in love and race relations and made it not about violence after the event, which the only suggestions that there were going to be violence was some press. Nobody ever mentioned that. All that we saw that came out of this was love. The people's families, as we talked about earlier, the churches here in Atlanta that immediately came together, black, white, Asian, Jewish, all faiths coming together to go, this is not okay. We love each other. And it became a different feeling. This whole thing has been different. And I think what we have from this is that it is all about love and going to the next level of history where this is going to be looked at as bringing people together in love and not in violence and moving to the next step. And it feels different and it feels good that we can move to the next level and not become violent over this. And I just felt like that this one is so significant in our history and that as we move forward, we'll see a difference.
Hi, I'm Cheryl. I was raised in the Air Force, and we traveled all over the world. One of the things I loved the most about being raised in the schools in the Air Force was that we had kids from everywhere. We had black, we had white, we had Russian, we had Jewish, you name it. And that's really what attracted me to come to this church. When I was a kid, my parents, they had prejudice all the time. And when we were in Germany, I was about 12, I had one of the surgeries in the Army hospital there. And I lost about 2 pints of blood on the operating table. And they put a call out. There were 2 Air Force bases and 1 Army base. They put a call out for somebody to come and donate some blood. Out of 3 bases, only 1 person, a black man, came forward and gave 2 pints of blood so I could live. Well, on top of the racial stuff that was going on in my family that I really didn't understand, when we got back to the States, my grandfather, my parents were talking about it, my grandfather said, "I can't believe you let them put a black man's blood in that child." And I said, "Granddaddy, would you rather me have died?" And he couldn't say anything. Anyway, I've been through it from the other end. Best friends that were not allowed to come and play with me. But what that did for me, because you know I'm an advocate, I'm going to speak for people that can't speak. What that did was led me into 30 years now of being the disability coordinator at the Atlanta Housing Authority. I started a volunteer group. We had 40 communities, and we fought. But now all of our communities are accessible. I was involved in getting over 1,600 people out of nursing homes who are trapped there. I personally got 40 of them out as a peer supporter. And I want you to know, not one of those people were white. And it was like having to go through the whole unfairness again. But coming to this church and learning the things that I've learned and being able to just be me and not have to hide and pretend that I'm something else, it's the only thing that can really make me reach out to somebody like that gunman. Because advocacy in the past, before I started coming here, would have been hatred, especially for the reasons that he killed people. But now I think this has been a lesson for me too, because now I can say that I forgive him, and I forgive my grandparents, and I forgive my parents for all the prejudice that they displayed. Thank you.
Everyone talks so nice. You're also well spoken, and I don't know if I have anything so eloquent to say. It has been a really interesting week to me, and I'm taking in everything that everyone said so far, and I agree with so much of what's been said so far. When Dawn said about the light, I keep thinking of a song that I sang at one of my churches in LA about holding up the light. And I feel like that is sort of, I feel like that's a mission for me all the time, is to hold up the light. Someone even said something about light earlier, so that's interesting. But I feel like holding up the light is sort of what I'm called to do as a person in this life. And I feel like moments like this are where the light and the dark in the world are sort of in, I don't want to say they're in opposition because I don't believe in opposition, but it's almost like a test or something. I was even at the gym yesterday, and someone just, I just go with my headphones on, I never talk to anyone, I just do my workout and leave, and someone just struck up a conversation about this event, and he really wanted to, engage me in his idea of this kind of dark aspect of looking at what happened in Charleston and saying, well, this is what those people do, and we need to be on watch for what they do, and I just wouldn't engage him in that. You know, we kept talking, but I would not agree with him, and he kept trying to engage me to get me to agree. Well, I'm from South Carolina, so you should know this and this. I was like, yes, and did you notice who, that couple that found the gunman, that they had been praying to look for him, and their conscience led them to find him. It's like, oh, yes, but, and he kept trying to get me to agree with this kind of dark way of looking at the events, and I just wouldn't agree with it. And I think that's sort of what we're called to do in a way as well, is to when people have that way of looking more darkly at the world, is to just keep recalling our light and bring our light back up.
I'm Alton Reynolds. I've spent most of the last 45 years working in mental health. I've helped black people, I've helped white people, and all any of them want is to be included, cared about, loved, appreciated, acknowledged. And some people get very, very confused and very angry and very upset and very puzzled. They don't know what to do to try and be included in something, somewhere, somehow. And it's very sad. And some of them turn to evil, some of them turn to love. But I think it's, no matter how you look at it, all of us want to be appreciated, acknowledged, loved, included, not ignored. And I think somehow this person in Charleston thought that he was going to be part of something, no matter how evil it was. He was going to no longer be ignored. I hope more and more people, though, do things that are of a loving nature.
My name is Madeline Hammond. I am head usher here at the center, but I'm also a human being. When I heard about the event at the church in Charleston, my first question was, why? I didn't think at the time that that question was unreasonable. But then I began to think, that young man needs love. It's very easy to express love and feel love for the people who lost their families. And it's very easy for us to wrap our arms and love and emotions around them. But that young man is lost and doesn't know he's loved. Initially, I didn't care whether he had love. I was upset, hurt, bleeding for the families, bleeding for the families who, bleeding for the people who were killed, bleeding for the families of the people, bleeding for the church. My heart was bleeding for the city and the state, and bleeding for us, because we're all connected. And so what happened to those people? And the feelings that they felt are the feelings that I'm sure many of us felt initially. I was raised and grew up in the civil rights era and worked in a civil rights office. That should have taught me a lesson that many people have not changed, that the passage of time has not changed people and their thinking. But it's not just the thinking about African Americans, it's the thinking about anyone who appears to be different. And that's what we need to wrap our arms and our minds around. We need to send love to those who feel that way towards individuals who think that because they're different, we should ignore them. We should say they're not equal, they don't deserve equality. That is not true. One of the things that I love about this church is that we all may be of different races, but we do love each other.
It took everything in me to come today. But I had to be reminded that we are all one. I wasn't going to come today because I was angry, I was hurt, but my mom told me that I had to come. And that this is where the teachings come in. This is where it matters. In situations like this, when, you know, we can say we love everyone and that we are all one. And I even have a tattoo on my arm that says one. But if I can't forgive and just know that we are all one, and just as people look at differences, if we were to join together and look at our oneness together, that this would never happen. We have way more similarities than we do differences. So I'm so thankful for this teaching. I'm thankful for Reverend David. I'm thankful for all the practitioners here that I know, for this teaching, for even being led to here. And I'm thankful my mom made me come today. I feel so much better.
My name is Sarah Ashlamaz, and when I first started taking notice of this information, I don't get a lot of the news, and when I saw it, it drew me in because it was just so, it was so deep, it was so much, and a part of me, I felt anger, of course, about the situation, but then I began to feel more anger when I went across Facebook and saw so many people saying negative things about how these family members immediately began to forgive, you know, and I saw so many conscious people post unconscious things, and it immediately put me into contact with, it's time for us all to come higher into the divine mind. And so many people are hurting and struggling that people like this young man may not really know how to express themselves as much as most of us in this room do. And it causes an acting out. And I would like us to be mindful of the people who have that hurt as well, because so many people need to hear from people like us. You know, we take ourselves for granted a lot, you know, because we see ourselves every day. And we just think, oh, I'm no one. But sometimes you say things that change the lives of others.
My name is Amy Johnson, and I really appreciate this opportunity to share these thoughts with you. When I saw the young man's picture, I could see the pain in his face. It was so much pain that it gave you pain. I was on vacation with my 4 sisters, and we were all in disbelief. And I think part of it was his honesty about why he was doing it, because usually we don't hear those reasons. They don't come forward. We have to kind of guess at why they did it, and that way we're able to kind of push it away. But I want to say to you today, as we approach the 4th of July, that in my heart and mind, I know and understand that that young man grew out of the foundation of this country. We put forward a document that says we hold all this truth to be self-evidence, that all men are created equal, and then we created some men 3/5 of a man. We created this out of the foundation of this country, and until we, as a country, are willing to address it, there will be no resolution of it, because we created it. It was created out of greed, the founders of this country, Thomas Jefferson and those who were leading, surely knew it was inappropriate, it was wrong, it wasn't healthy, but they had a need to create a bigger country. And that reminds me of our own issues when we see something that we want and we go after it, even though we feel in the depth of us that maybe this isn't right or it's not the right time, but we push to get it. And then it turns out not to be what we really wanted at all anyway. And so there's just so many lessons out of the founding and out of our everyday lives that come from what this young man did. And I too pray for him and for his family, because someone gave him that impetus. It came from somewhere, but then maybe it came from all of us as we teach. It came from all of us. But I thank you today, because racism was secondary in this country. I mean, it is clear when you read the history books that first was having, and second was those who didn't have, who were Caucasian. We had to keep them happy somehow. So we put our foot on the necks of people who looked a little different and said they were different. I don't know. I feel like I'm one with all of you. I know that I'm one with all of you, though sometimes I really have to think about it and push myself to feel that way, honestly. But here it is, and I thank you.
I'm a therapist. About a third of my practice is Black men. One of the things that I believe that's so beautifully stated in the story that began our service is that the soul chooses. Soul is a part of a divine plan, and that we choose to provide experiences in the human form. So when I think about a situation like this, I have gratitude for the Black people who chose to be in that situation in spirit. I have gratitude for all of my many friends who are gay, lesbian, transgender, who chose to walk in this human reality and to experience the truth of hate and fear. So when I go through my resolution and my journey, and it is a journey because some days I feel love, some days I'm a civil rights person too. I was out there in the streets with the Black Panthers, honey. So, you know, this is a history lesson. We are in a sea change. We are in a period where people who thought they controlled everything are no longer the dominant controlling factor in this country. So fear is the opposite of love. So when I look at that young man, I see his fear, I see his hate, but I also see the people who chose, for whatever reason, to be a part of this historical journey of love, of God's presence demonstrating. And I also see the opportunity for us, not just to forgive, but to have gratitude for those souls who came here to teach us the lesson. Yes, he came here to teach the lesson, but I have too many people who I think about. My son, my nephews, my many friends who could be driving while Black. And that's the end of the story. I know that our teacher, Ernest Holmes, said, you treat and then you move your feet. That means after you've done all of these wonderful prayers and all of these affirmations, when you're in a situation of anger and hate and lies about the truth of who we are, you open your mouth and you affirm what you believe to those people who are speaking lies, hatred, and are talking about doing things that will defile and negate the presence of those people who have chosen to be here and have been a part of this historical experience. Don't talk about it, be about it. Thank you.
Good morning. First, I want to give homage and grace to God in this universe and for David Ault. When I saw this incident happen in South Carolina, I had a reflection of the 60s when they bombed that first black church and 3 beautiful black little girls were killed. And here we are 20 years later doing the same thing. And something is wrong. And something is wrong in all of us until we straighten it out. We have a responsibility, and we have to do it out of love. Okay? The greatest power on this universe is love. That young man, nobody loved him. But if he'd have had some love, maybe these 8, 9 people would be going to church this morning. But they didn't get that privilege. But we have a privilege this morning to be here. So don't take that for granted. Now, I'm a triple minority. Cherokee Indian, Black American, and gay. And you can see how I have to salivate through society to sustain and still be free. Okay? You have the same power. I just chose to use mine. So you need to take your power right now when you march out that door and go somewhere and do something about this situation or make your voice known. Because if you don't, it will continue to repeat itself. And I'm tired of being repeated. Okay? So we all have a responsibility. Thank God, thank David. I'm getting ready to celebrate the greatest love of my life. Next weekend, David's going to officiate our wedding. And let me tell you something. It's not going to be about gay marriage. It's not going to be about commitment. It's going to be all about love.
I look at Mother Teresa. You know, she didn't have to go to Calcutta. She come from a wealthy family. She didn't have to go walk in the streets and take care of all them homeless people. Martin Luther King didn't have to die like he did. The Kennedys didn't have to die the way he did. Malcolm X didn't have to die the way he did. But we all are here to do something. And this center is showing me that I need to stand up and be accountable for what I was born for. And racism has become the elephant in the room. We can no longer pretend like you don't know what racism is. We all are victims of racism. This is not a black problem or a white problem. It's a universal problem. And until we learn how to wrap our arms around our wholeness, we, through our own decision, will stay sick. Peace is available to us all, and I thank Reverend David, and I thank this teaching, and I thank Ty and Penelope and everyone that put this center together to allow me to be able to understand that I am not on this journey by myself. But I can't wait on somebody else to do something that I'm responsible for doing myself. My thoughts create my world. I'm free today because I have the consciousness of freedom. I have the awareness of freedom. And y'all gave me the tools so that I can be free. So no matter what I see out there on television, and I'm an MSNBC addict. You know, that and Young and the Restless. If I'm not, you know, and I'm like, oh my God, I go from one extreme to the next. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, really? Really? You know, but it's through coming here and finding out who I am and whose I am. Love first has to come from within.
I am a divine being, having a human experience in this moment. And for me, the grief and the pain of what happened was so overwhelming. I sat in my living room and wept. I can't tell you why I wept. I've listened to folks talk about what they experienced, and of course I thought of the 4 children who were in the Birmingham bombing, and of course I thought about being the only chip in the cookie in 3rd grade in 1968 in my white school in Wellesley, and of course I thought about the fact that I am auntie to 67 children and sibling to 17 brothers and sisters. And we range from pale to blacker than 1,000 midnights. And I'm lesbian. And I'm older. And I'm spiritual. And I'm a whole lot of things. But what I am is a divine being having a human experience. And while I can talk about my divinity and I can express my love, I can't forget that in this very real moment of connection, that I felt my humanity, that I felt the grief of what it means to be Black in America, of what it means to be Haitian in the Dominican Republic, of what it means to be other anywhere. Yeah, breathe. Everybody, please just breathe. I'd like to ask that you just take the hand of the person next to you. Because we are radiating love. Everyone in this room is a believer. We are healers. We are people who get it or are getting it. We understand, and we have such powerful gifts within us to create change in the world, to bring value, to come do what we were here to do. And that young man, whether we like it or not, he did what he was here to do. Because in that moment, he changed the conversation for all of us. In that moment that he sat and prayed with those people, knowing that he was going to do what he was going to do, he came and did what he was ordained to do so that those people could do what they were going to do. And so that we could be in this room today and feel what we're feeling in connection and love with one another. And it's hard sometimes to believe that that is all part of the same thing, but it is. Right, wrong, good, bad, it all comes from the same place. I wrote something, and I want to say this to you. If I haven't said it directly to you, I need you to know that I love you. In all of our complexities, I love you. In all of our complexions, I love you. In all of our gender expressions, identities, and assignments, I love you. In all of our faith practices, I love you. In all of your ages, I love you. In all of the many tongues that utter your every expression, I love you. In all of your poverty and wealth, I love you. In all of your varying physical abilities, I love you. In all of your physical and aesthetic attributes, I love you. In all of your intellect and intelligence quotients, I love you. In all of your fears about me, who I am, what I represent to you, I love you. For I am love, and love knows no bounds. It has no separation, distinguishes not one from another, is me, is you, is this collective reflection of the universe. This is love, and I love you.
We're going to allow ourselves to take our little island of consciousness and let it spread. So if you will pray this prayer with me. It's taking a deep breath. What I know in this moment is that I am in that place of love that was so eloquently spoken of. And in that place that knows only authenticity, I now reach out to you, my brother or my sister. And I humbly apologize for the historical and the current marginalization that has been expended to you. As I send my love to you, I send my love to your ancestry. And through the power of mind, I began to establish a whole new vision of what is possible. And I now let that which is the divine begin to create the ripple effect that will no longer abide by this marginalization, but will stand triumphant hand to hand, heart to heart, skin to skin, and know that the only reality is love.